Right after Alex Pereira got done defending his light heavyweight title, he told Joe Rogan that his game plan in this fight was to let Khalil get tired and then pour it on. And that's exactly what he did. Starting in the first round, Pereira was focused mainly on attritive weapons. And I don't know if attritive is a word because every time I type it in, it gives me a little autocorrect thing, but when I search it up, it pops up in Webster. What I mean by attritive is weapons that like attrition weapons, weapons that will like hurt your opponent and then it'll slowly get worse and worse, like low kicks, like body shots, and like jabs. Pereira was very um, non-committal in the first two rounds of this fight. The most committal strikes he threw were high kicks, which he did get countered for when he threw a question mark kick, turned his back, and then got hit. But in this first round, Pereira focused mostly on staying in the center of the cage so he can have the backup exit. Because Khalil is a very strong, powerful, fast, dangerous dude, especially in the first two rounds. That's what Pereira had said when he was studying him. And Pereira kept it in the middle of the octagon so he could back up in straight lines, which is like the most effective way of not getting hit is getting the hell out of the way and backing up in a straight line. And Pereira has this kind of like high guard where he backs up trying to catch looping shots with his frames and backing up out of the way, and you see him doing that here. And if Khalil had successfully backed Pereira up against the fence, this could become dangerous for Pereira because he doesn't have that backup retreat. And his boxing defense is very reliant on being tall and getting back in a straight line. He's not, once he's countering offensively, he has really good slip in counters, but on defense, he's not pivoting particularly well or moving his head or keeping his hands tight to his head in like that close boxing range. So he prefers to get all the way out, and that's what he was doing in this first round. And you see here getting to that attritive weapon that I was talking about, which is the calf kick. Even against southpaw opponents, Pereira has a very low telegraphed, like not very telegraphed, step up inside low kick to the calf, and he threw a few of these in this round. But again, this is a relatively non-committal strike. As he's landing this, you can see the distance between him and Rountree. Rountree would have to time this beautifully, stepping in deep, like closer to his knee line, like really crowding that calf kick in order for him to start landing counters. So very non-committal from Pereira in the first round. So after the first round, Khalil definitely won on just output, and he was using a lot of energy to explode into his attacks, like exploding into 2 or 3 punch hook combinations, trying to close the distance on Pereira. But like I said, Pereira very non-committal, staying outside, using his jab and pretty much nothing else. A couple teeps, couple head kicks, couple low kicks, and that's it. And we get back into the second round, and he's still on this jab. This, if you when you watch this fight back, focus on Pereira's jab as a weapon, because in the fight you can kind of like overlook it because he has so many other dangerous attacks behind his jab, but his jab was so active and essential in his winning of this fight. Like, he started putting more sting on it as the rounds went on, but early he was just kind of throwing it out there, staying active with it, and like he wasn't throwing any other punches really. So it was the jab, and it was the calf kick, and it was the body kicks, and the occasional head kick was the majority of Pereira's offense. And the second round was largely the same story as the first. Pereira being very non-committal, staying in the center of the octagon so he could back up against Khalil's explosions, and Khalil exploding in with combinations. In this round was the round where Pereira throws a question mark kick a little bit too close and then turns his back and gets hit by Rountree, which occasionally, which momentarily drops Pereira, but Pereira recovers really well and stays on that jab of his. But once we get into the third round, this is where Pereira starts to turn it up. His pressure becomes a little bit more heavy, and his commitment in his punches is a little bit more. He's jabbing a little harder, and he's throwing more shots. You see here he's backing Rountree up, and he throws an overhand right against Rountree, and he gets back to the calf kicks. I'm trying out screenshots because I obviously don't want to get copyrighted. And he landed this really nice teep to the body, and he was throwing more teeps than I've ever seen him throw. But this was a really good attack for him. And Rountree was doing a good job of catching kicks generally, but keep kicking. He's not going to take you down. The best he'll do is counter you, which he did when he catches your kicks. But Pereira was getting a little bit more active with the calf kick in the third round, and this without a doubt hampered the movement of Khalil and worked towards kind of making Khalil a little bit more of a sitting target. And then we get into the fourth round, and at the end of the third, you could really see that Rountree was starting to fade. Pereira hadn't landed anything super clean, a couple of crisp jabs, and he threw some flying knees that might have grazed, but you could see Khalil fading and that explosiveness running out, and him just having to back up against the fence and not really offer too much offense back. But then in the fourth round, Pereira lands a really, really hard jab as Rountree looks to start like an inside low kick, and this wobbles Rountree and just kind of starts the end of the fight. It does take a while because Rountree is one tough human being, and also because Pereira just didn't go into like full, okay, I hurt him once, now I'm gonna just throw everything. Like, that's a dangerous thing. Khalil's still dangerous, can still land with power. So Pereira did a really, really good job of sticking his jab constantly, and once Rountree would counter the jab, he would begin to counter the counter. So he would go first and third. Pereira jabs here, Rountree counters with a left hand, Pereira slips to the outside and lands a super clean right hand. This isn't the best screenshot, but he slips outside and lands a clean right hand. Looks to follow up with the left hook that doesn't land, kind of misses, but he was going first and third beautifully, drawing out the counters. And now, since it's been 4 rounds of Pereira getting a gauge of Rountree's speed and Rountree's slowing down as the rounds are going on, he feels more comfortable in the pocket to slip and rip his devastating boxing counters. And this is just kind of the tail of the end of the fight. Pereira going first, waiting for the counter, and then countering the counter very, very hard. Again, you see Pereira lead the dance with the jab, slip outside of the left hand, counter large with the right hand, and then again, same story, jab, slip outside, right hand, and then watch this left hook, how tight it is in the pocket. Like, look at his elbow. This landed like right on the chin of Rountree, but his elbow is like more than 90 degrees bent in order for him to land this, and there's so much power on it. And this wobbles Khalil really, really badly. He stumbles back, and as I said, Khalil super, super tough, and he's kind of just resorted now to backing up against the cage wall with his hands up in a solely defensive posture. So this is where Pereira can start going around the side of the guard. He did a pulling down of Rountree's guard to open up for the right hook, and after a solid amount of punishment, like we're at 150 here, and now 33 seconds left in the round. So this has all just been Pereira picking his shots on a very damaged Rountree, and finally Pereira goes two ginormous hooks to the body, starting with the right and ending with the left, which just, like, oh my goodness, that you'd have to pay me so much money to get hit with those. And then he ends it with an uppercut, and this is where Rountree just folds up on the ground. So the story of this fight is Pereira with a genius game plan of letting Khalil gas out, also at altitude, but he lets Khalil get the explosiveness out in the first 2 rounds. That's where he's most dangerous, and Pereira just gets in his attritive weapons, which are the calf kicks, the jabs, body kicks, non-committal, so he's not going to get countered doing these. And then once he sees Khalil start to fade, then he can start to open up with his combinations, and all behind his beautiful jab, which was like consistent throughout the whole fight, but got heavier and heavier as the fight went on. And then he used it to start drawing out counters from Rountree and just punishing him. So overall, an amazing fight. Pereira is a killer. He'll probably face Magomed Ankalaev next, and if Magomed doesn't wrestle, then there's issues, but he probably will wrestle. End the exciting title reign of Pereira, and we'll all be sad. Sad. My voice cracked there. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching, and peace.